Welcome to Fintech Chatter News, presented by Tier 1 People, leaders in fintech executive search. Follow us on your favorite podcast player or Fintech Chatter TV on YouTube.
I'm Dexter Cousins, and it's been a massive week for the Aussie Fintech industry. Intersekt 22 was bigger and better than ever. 2 days of conversations, insights, friendships being formed, and connections being made, along with lots of reunions, laughs, hugs, and of course, the parties. Out of the hundreds of conversations, I managed to record a few to share with you. I speak to a few fintech legends, as well as founders from the next wave of fintech startups. And I also chat with some of the unsung heroes behind the scenes. Here's a chat with Ryan Edwards-Pritchard from Cape. Ryan, great to be with you.
Dexter, awesome to be back face to face. How about that?
Yeah, so look, we're here at Intersekt. It's your first Intersekt. You've been here on a panel with Bo from Prosper. I'm going to take you back 2 years ago, you and I in Manly, when we did the kind of business fintech or the SME fintech special. It was one of our most downloaded shows ever. And we were talking about Prosper, and you were in stealth mode. And here we are now. You're sitting on a panel with Bo, and you're talking about Cape. How much of a head screw is that?
Yeah, honestly, I can't believe that was 2 years ago. That's unbelievable. They say never meet your heroes. But honestly, Bo, that was my first time meeting Bo as well. So he was brilliant, and just being able to, prior to the panel, chew the fat in terms of the Prosper journey, because the guys there are now 10 years old. Everything they've been through, everything they've done, achieved, and what they've got coming up, it's really inspiring to kind of hear that and to actually get the opportunity to sit on a panel with him. And yeah, like you say, the irony of the situation is that exactly 2 years ago, pretty much to the month, in fact, we were there. We hadn't yet launched Cape. We didn't know what Cape was going to be. We had an inkling in terms of the direction we want to take and the kind of the problems we wanted to solve. But it's incredible just kind of thinking back, because we were talking about them. I think we were talking about Judo, Budden, a couple of others, and we were talking about just what an amazing opportunity it is in terms of SME banking. It is here in Australia. So it's kind of gone full circle, and today managed to sit down with Bo, and we were talking about business banking in Australia and kind of like the banks. I mean, it was positioned as the banks versus the fintechs within the SME space, but I feel like, maybe I'm biased here in saying it, I feel like we were quite balanced in the sense of the opportunities for both sides, and actually just the need for both of them to kind of exist and find a way forward, and both playing to their strengths. So it was it was an absolute privilege to sit on the panel with both those guys.
Awesome.
Them, and I was going to say we had Patron, and it was moderated by Jennifer Harrison.
Patron's kind of emerged around about the same time as we did that chat as well, and awesome to see what they're doing. But do you want to tell us a bit more about Cape and you guys, and kind of where you're at, and what is the problem that you figured out to solve?
Well, a great question. Yeah, so we are, and I did say this on the panel with the new kids on the block. Patron had been around a little bit before us. For Cape, in terms of the problem that we're solving, we have seen a acceleration in terms of the disaggregation of financial services over the last 5 to 10 years, and that has not helped finance teams. It has hindered them. And all of a sudden, if you consider what it takes in terms of your finance stack just to run things day to day across your card issuer, whether that's prepaid, debit, credit, across your expense management software, reimbursement software, corporate travel software, and everything else that you can imagine, it's caused a huge headache when it comes to financial admin, and just this lack of interconnectedness, just being a real burden when you're having to actually move data through all of those different systems. So for us, what we've done is we've actually collapsed all that down onto one simple platform to help businesses move quicker. And I think the thing that we realized with this disaggregation was slowing people down, slowing businesses down, slowing decisions down. And this kind of day and age, especially in terms of the current market conditions, which are pretty fierce out there and have been for the last 3 to 6 months, you need to have a real-time view of what's going on in your business there and there at your fingertips. And by consolidating all this into one place, you've got that, and you can make very well-informed decisions about, based in terms of your cash flow, what do you need to do, what levers do you need to pull, and if that means you can make decisions to go invest a little bit more in terms of growth via AdWords, and then you're not waiting around for a decision to be made, through the approval process for somebody to go and say, yeah, sure, spend a couple $1,000 more on there. We're automating all of that expense policy approval process for small business owners.
So what's really interesting about what you've just shared there, Ryan, from a recruitment perspective, particularly executive search, the discussions that I'm now having, we've had this almost consolidation period. Unfortunately, redundancies. I think businesses have looked at 2023. Nobody's, massively optimistic. I think, they expect headwinds still. And so it's going to be an environment where growth is going to come from two things. Getting very, very, kind of old school around growing the top line, and kind of, traditional selling, and, the bottom line. And how do we kind of strip costs out? Something like a CAPE solution sounds like it's absolutely tailor-made to support founders on that journey and startups on that journey and smaller businesses.
Yeah, 100%. So we do talk about this a lot internally in terms of what our North Star is, and just really clearly articulating what our mission is. So the mission for CAPE is all about building complete expense nirvana for our customers, help take the headaches away around month end and chasing people for receipts. But the North Star, which is the really important part of that point that you just made there, is saving businesses $1 billion a year, which is a big, lofty target, but it's something that we're working towards over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's all about how do we put more money back into the pockets of small business owners. Some of those, it's quite simply through looking at FX transactions and the cost of FX. When you take into consideration that at average it's about 3%. Otherwise, it's then having that kind of intelligence layer over the top of transactions and understanding where, for example, with subscriptions, which is one of the big things for modern businesses, 50 to 100 subscriptions any of these guys and girls are going to have set up. Where you've got overlapping subscriptions, duplicate subscriptions, orphan subscriptions, zombie subscriptions, where suddenly your cost base in terms of GCP, AWS is kind of increasing drastically overnight, helping business owners and finance teams identify where those wasteful purchases are happening at the source and actually eradicating them. And then there's the other side of things, which is actually having software control payments going through the cards themselves is the other thing. So taking your expense policy and codifying that into the payment rails so that when you distribute your virtual cards across your team, 10 people, 50 people, couple hundred people, there is never a cent that's spent outside of the expense policy. And obviously, in the world that we live in today, which is still very much remote and hybrid, you never get to see the white of the eyes of those staff, elbow to elbow as we are right now. So you need to put your trust into a system. So that decentralization is a really important thing to ensure that you can confidently empower your staff to go do their job without jeopardizing your cash flow.
Now, it's been a bit of a privilege kind of watching this CAPE journey from the very kind of moment of an idea to you sat now in front of me. And there are many things that I kind of admire about you and how you've gone about doing this. But I think one of the things that really, has set CAPE apart and you apart has been your approach to bringing on what I would say is a fantastic team with, not a huge a lot of resources. It's not like you've raised millions and millions of dollars to go and get these people. And yet, real, like excellent, outstanding talent, very, very relevant to the space as well. How have you gone about doing that? Or do you not want to share this with everybody?
No, mate, it's a thank you. Like, that's very kind, first of all. And yeah, I'd agree. I think the thing that really sets Cape apart from everybody else, I think, there's some great fintechs out there in the market, but we've really had to focus on every single seat that we have, pound for pound, making sure it's the best possible person. Like, as you said, we have to be very frugal. We don't have a huge amount of resources in terms of capital, so we need to be as capital efficient as possible. And, from my perspective, that's meant, being the recruiter. It's an interesting one with other founders and people kind of going through this journey in terms of their take on this, but you have to go out there and you've got to build your own ecosystem of talent. And if I look through all of our staff, some of them have been people that I had coffees with even before Cape was an idea, and I was just chewing the fat in terms of it with different friends and just getting their perspective in terms of the market. Others, it's been 12 months, 18 months, 24 months in terms of pursuit, and then it's just kind of a question of time and when are they ready to actually join. But it's really been about me building an ecosystem of talent around me and then bring them in at the right point.
And, we need to also kind of apply some context here. You arrived in Australia at the beginning of 2020, just before COVID, without a network or fintech network here.
No.
Which kind of, I think, obviously necessity meant that you had to go and build that network. But what I love about what you've shared there is that it's almost kind of, carbon copy the advice I've been given to founders for the last 5-6 years, which is hire people like you're raising capital. Same amount of energy, time, and everything that you put into raising capital, you have to put that into hiring the best talent.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, it is it's definitely a funnel activity, and it's something that you should be actively doing. It's funny, I talked to our team about it before and I got corrected. So I was saying, that kind of mindset of always be hiring, always be recruiting. I was corrected by a people team who they're just like, it's always be pipelining, be pipelining. And you can say that in so many different facets, whether it's your customers, whether it's investors, whether it's talent. But it's a really important activity that you need to do. And I think for us, it was really hard. Coming here, different continent, not known a soul, and going into a pandemic, where you don't have the necessary luxury of just getting to events like Intersekt, right? Or being in, say, Stone Chalk or Fish Burners or Tankstream Labs, where you're going to just bump into these people serendipitously and start building relationships. So it was a lot of hard work. I think on the engineering and product side, especially on the engineering side, it was definitely been a bit more creative in terms of how to interact with engineers on GitHub, and like when you're seeing things being pushed, what are they doing, and actually commenting and like actually approaching and engaging with them in a slightly different way, as opposed to things like LinkedIn, which are really important from a employer branding perspective and employer kind of value proposition. But I think for us, we've definitely put a lot of focus on those different facets and elements, and then otherwise it's trying to differentiate yourself against everybody else that's in the market, because if you're a scrappy little pre-seed seed company, it's going to be really hard for you to compete with the Series A, Series B companies and beyond that. And we have to, we get regularly people, larger players, larger peers, competitors trying to headhunt our talent out. And then it's about how do you give people, your team, a sense of purpose in terms of what it is that you're building. And that's been a really invaluable thing to both attract people, but also keep them motivated and retained. They don't get that sense of purpose elsewhere.
So let's look forward to this next 12 months. And let's kind of, suppose we're at Intersekt 2023. What are some of the achievements and things that you kind of hope that we'll be talking about next year?
Ooh, great question. So we talked before about our mission in terms of complete expense nirvana. And for us, that is our mission over the next 12 months. We realize there is a lot to do in this space around finance automation. But if you try to do everything, you don't do anything, right? So we just want to try and focus as much as possible in terms of fixing that over the next 12 months. And that's everything to do with the transactions in that space. That's everything to do with how those transactions interact with your accounting systems, the enrichment, the categorization that's needed, everything to do with receipt capture, receipt management, helping employees say goodbye to submitting expense reports. For us, it's phase one is all about doing that, achieving that. And then phase two, from a product perspective, is then going on to payments and kind of everything else. And I think for us, that's kind of the different phases that we're looking at. Expenses, payments, everything else. And then the other kind of side of things is just that layer of intelligence we're putting over the top of our platform. We've built 2 proprietary systems in terms of Axle and Cog. Axle's our customer-facing platform. Cog, Cape Operational GUI, that's our internal system. And then we're building one out right now as we speak, which is going to change the industry. I say it's going to change the industry. It's going to support our customers in a very positive way. And for us, the thing that we talk about is how do we help our customers get all of the capability of a finance team without the necessary headcount increase. So that kind of finance team as a service type of mentality. And that's what we're building into the platform. So the next 12 months, it's complete. I've given you a lot there, but the next 12 months, complete expense nirvana.
12 months, right? I wasn't talking about 2025.
But let's.
I hope none of your staff, your employees are listening to this.
The product team be like there going, oh my, this was not in the backlog. So let's complete expense nirvana. And then for us, we're very proudly Australian based. But for us, we're very much focused in terms of building something for this region. It doesn't mean every single country, but we've very much got our sights in terms of taking our platform into different geographies around here. Do we think that can be done? Do we think we can start kind of just getting things in place for that in the next 12 months potentially? But we're also cautious. We don't want to bite off more than we can chew right now. So we'd rather consolidate in terms of our resources, capital, on building the platform, getting the kind of early runs on, and then moving into public launch next year as well. We're still in beta. We're still an early stage startup. We only kind of started onboarding our first customers last quarter. So we also need to be pragmatic in terms of where we are and where we're going. But for us, it's just building pace, build momentum. Yes, there's one eye on the horizon there, as we say in there, and we can joke about it. But really, day to day, we try to stay quite grounded in terms of what is it that we're looking to deliver in terms of this week, this sprint cycle, and it's those 10% gains, 10% improvements. Can we do that? Can we achieve it? And before you know it, we'll be there in terms of where we want to be on that North Star.
Cool. Now, you've actually made some hires through your appearance on the podcast in the past, I believe. Is that right?
Which ones is the question?
I think it was Andrew, wasn't it?
Andrew Fanner, there we go. Yeah, interesting. So one of the team, exactly, the power of podcasting, my friend.
So on that note, if there's anybody listening who wants to be part of this Cape journey, or we get loads of founders listening to this as well who might want to be interested in the beta phase, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Like him, come hit me up on LinkedIn. I think he did, and he literally messaged me. And the same with anybody else who's listening out there and interested to come on our journey. We'd love to bring them on board. We'd love to give them the tools to help them manage their cash flow, put more money back in the pocket. So if there's anybody out there that's interested in terms of what we're building with Cape, please either hit me up LinkedIn or message or email me, Ryan@getcape.io. I'm actually off all of the social media. That's the only one I've got left is LinkedIn these days. Right. So best, email or LinkedIn. I think I'll get back to you straight away.
Awesome. Well, mate, this has been so cool. Great to see you at Intersekt. But, again, just cool to see this journey of the last 2 and a bit years and things really getting traction.
Awesome. Well, mate, thank you for all the support.
Yeah,
we well appreciate it.
Well, thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed that chat, we've got plenty more from Intersekt. If you're new to the show, please hit follow and leave us a review. And if you're coming back, Thanks so much for your support. It really helps us promote the Aussie ecosystem to a global audience. And if you want to connect with me, reach out on LinkedIn and Twitter. Fintech Chatter is presented by Tier 1 People, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll help you build world-class fintech ventures by connecting you to world-class talent. And you can find out more tier1people.com.